Hoff Torup gets 10 games next season. His team, his style, I can't say I'm holding out much hope. He looks completely out of his depth. And this week we're talking about the growing number of fans that are saying he's on borrowed time. And is he immune from criticism at all this year? Or does he get a free pass until next season? Also, what's the point in Slimani? Fans have had enough. We're talking about wages and top earners at Norwich City. We've got some interesting statistics to share with you. And who do we want to see come up from League One? We have got 20 minutes to review all the Norwich chatter from the Oxford game and all the social media takes, good and bad, with Killian and Matty. Welcome back to Where Canaries Walk. Killian, we've got a growing number of people that are saying JHT perhaps isn't the man for us. I know we get frustrated when these things come up, but can you see where some of the criticism is coming from following the Oxford game?
It's a really difficult one, to be honest with you, to judge. I think he's done quite well. He's obviously had a lot of injuries, suspensions. I think the Duffy call was an interesting one at the weekend. I personally think Duffy mightn't have let that goal in if he'd been playing. But obviously, at least JST's been consistent. I think he needs a break until next season. But I think we want to see something different next season.
Cheers. Matty, Daniel says, I've given up on Torup after that result. He's completely out of his depth at this level. He's forcing a style of play that is on the way out in English football and is comically easy to defend against, whilst also seemingly being incapable of coaching any sort of defensive organisation. How do you respond to that? He wasn't on his own.
No, I saw that guy actually reply to me on Twitter the weekend. I've not got a great deal of time for it, to be honest with you. I'm a bit sick of our fan base jumping on a manager who's in his second managerial job, who is learning a new league, new young players, who's been given this kind of quite immense job of offloading wages alongside obviously Nappa's work to do so and bringing in a younger, cheaper squad. So what do we expect if we compare him to Farker, as many are going to do? Farker's first season was poor. We finished 14th with a minus 11 goal difference, and we lost poor games. We drew, playing, having a lot of the ball but not doing enough with it, and that's very similar to Hoff Torup at the moment. It's fickle, very fickle to give so much stick to a manager who's in his second sort of managerial stint in such a huge league. So, it's frustrating to see the fans' reaction, to be honest, is where I'm at with it.
Cheers for that, Matty. Killian's AJ Rush says JHT is not immune from criticism. Wagner would have been slaughtered for a point and that performance against Oxford. Is he right there? Do you think the fan base would have jumped on Wagner for a performance like that? And is JHT getting away with it a bit?
He's not really, and there's a lot. You've given some examples there what people have been saying, and as Matty said, there our fan base is a bit fickle. It wasn't a great result, but I thought the performance was okay against Oxford. Wasn't certainly the worst we played. So there's always going to be opinions in football, and I think JHT is doing a good job in terms of how he's managing the players, and we've had some good moments. Consistency is the challenge, though.
Okay, we'll present the other side of it as well. Oh, I've done that one. 10 games left, John says. And only 3 points away from the top 6. Now is the time for clear heads and sustained focus. So good on you, John, for pointing out that this is not all over, is it, Matty? But when you look at the results at the weekend with Coventry winning and then West Brom winning, is hopes of playoffs fading for you, and actually to the point you actually want it anymore?
I don't think I want them this season, but if it keeps it interesting, or if I'm looking at it from other fans' perspective, we can still do it. Like we snuck in last season. It was strange, really, because we lost on that final day at Birmingham. Still managed to sneak in, and everyone was, Wagner and his coaching staff were celebrating like it was job done, as if to say that was the epitome of what they believed that they could sort of achieve. Feels like this season, it's like many fans maybe believe we should be in the playoffs, but I feel like that's an unrealistic expectation. I think actually if we can finish 8th, for me, that's job done, and reassess next season. So yeah, we're still in with a shout. Of course we are. We all know what the Championship's like, and that's why we love it. It's topsy-turvy. It's anything can change in a couple of games, and there's every chance that we still finish 6th. And that's why I'm so annoyed about the fickleness and the reactionary sort of takes from the fans, is because actually, if we hold on against Blackburn and if we win, if Saints puts his chance away against Oxford, that's 6 points from those 2 games, and we're right in with a shout. So you've got to take the rough with the smooth, haven't you?
You certainly have. Well said. Jack says it was expected. It's a sort of game I hope that we're going to learn from for next season and future seasons after that. We're far too slow on the ball, making it nearly impossible to break Oxford down onto the next one. Killian, is he right about this? The speed of transitions?
Yeah, at times it has looked a bit slow, and I think we've definitely struggled against teams who've sat back, sat deep. We've seen it with Preston, we've seen it with Derby, now we've seen it with Oxford. So, I think a lot of teams are going to play that style against us, and we need to figure out how to unlock it. We haven't so far, but I've faith in the team that they will get it together.
Well said. And let us know your thoughts in the comments. If you've just come across the channel, it's 20 minutes of talking about Norwich every single week, looking through all the social media takes. One player in particular, Matty, came out from a lot of criticism following the Oxford game. Wasn't all particularly nice either. Kieran says, a question I was asking myself all the time. He was on the pitch yesterday. What does Slimani actually do? What does he bring to the table? He says, go on to say Dross. Norwich Pondering says, never ever play Slimani. Your thoughts?
He, for me, and it's obviously an if because the whole season's been ifs with injuries, but if everyone's fit, Slimani doesn't start. But I don't dislike him. I think he keeps us ticking over well. I'd prefer Nunez, Marcondes, and McLean, of course. But in terms of someone who's come in, not really cost us a huge amount, I don't think, and has done a job. My concern is that he was better when he was on loan, and now we've kind of signed him on a permanent. Has his level dropped? Has he kind of got comfortable? So that's the obvious concern there. But I think, again, it's reactionary. It's spur of the moment for people to be saying, what does he do? Never play him again? I've been there myself with certain players, but I think it's harsh to, there was a few poorer performances at the weekend. And as we've just discussed, we didn't move the ball quick enough. That's defensively, that's in the midfield. So I think it's harsh to just jump on Slimani whilst others didn't have the best game as well.
Killian, do you agree?
Yeah, I don't think it was his best game on Friday night. I thought he played reasonably poorly, but I have seen some great moments from him. Like he's tough. He's not afraid to get stuck in, and he's got a decent shot on him when he's in that sort of position. But just Friday didn't seem to go his way. That was my opinion of it.
Yeah. Okay. Cheers for that. Let us know what you think in the comments. So 2 days in 4 games, 2 games in 4 days for you this week, Matty. Sheffield Wednesday and Bristol City, 2 teams which have been hopeful for your playoff spot as well. Minimum this week is what?
What do you mean? What I want or what I expect?
Well, we know what you want.
I think 4 would be nice. I think if we've got to, if I've got to put my let's go chase the playoffs hat on, then it's 4. It's 3 points on Tuesday night at home, and it's a point minimum at Bristol City, who were held by Hull and were losing, notably. So it'd be so typical of Norwich to draw Blackburn, to draw against Oxford, to maybe even draw against Sheffield Wednesday, and then go and beat Bristol on Friday night. So yeah, I'd take 4 points right now, to be honest.
Okay, yeah. Sheffield Wednesday have got one eye on the Sheffield derby, of course, this weekend as well. So as they've already told us, not really looking at Norwich at all. They're just focusing on their derby this weekend. This week, we've also had graphics being produced of the wages, which are being spent by most clubs. I've got to say, the first thing that caught my eye was, wow, Norwich are spending a lot. Now, we haven't had this confirmed, I don't think, by the club, but this is what's been reported by reputable sort of sport financial groups. Killian, the fourth biggest spenders in the league. Are you surprised at that? Do you believe it?
Not really. I mean, one of the things I think of, when I knew this topic was coming up, I had a quick Google myself, and there's a lot of different sites purporting to show wages and salaries, and they're all different. So it's very hard to gauge what the whole truth is. I think we've got some players in on freeze who probably are on decent enough salaries, but I think we shifted quite a few of the higher salaries out in January. So it doesn't surprise me though. Like, we were a Premier League team a few seasons ago. And there's a price to pay for that, so it doesn't really surprise me that it's the higher end.
The reported salaries, and again, these are all reported to be the case, but they all seem to be roughly around. Is that Matty, that your highest earner is Duffy on 35k a week, similar with Stacey and Dobbin, obviously, who's a loan player, so obviously his wages, I don't know how much of that Norwich are paying. But does any of that surprise you on there?
Oh well, there's a couple of players that I think are stealing a living on some of their salaries, but in terms of the higher end, like the fact that Duffy and Stacey are there, that's not a huge surprise. As Killian mentioned, what have we offloaded over the past few months? Barnes, Fashion Act. Who was the other one that went in January, Killian?
Hanley went as well.
Hanley. So those three were right up there as well. So we've, as Killian says, we've drastically offloaded in the winter window. I am a little bit surprised by those bottom two, to be frank with you. O'Neill's been with the club for a long time, and I know he loves the club, and he's a good impact sub, but that's a decent whack for someone who's had injury problems and doesn't play a huge amount of games and is inconsistent when he does. And Sorensen on there for 20 grand a week is quite alarming in my opinion. I think Sargent is possibly, and that's a hell of a lot of money. None of us necessarily earn 25 grand a week, I don't think, on the screen. But I think he's possibly one of the ones that's maybe under earning. And I think if we've got any intention of keeping him, we've got to throw, I'm not saying double that at him, but a good chunk. Otherwise, it wouldn't surprise me if he's off in the summer.
Okay. Obviously, those figures are not validated by the club at all. These are just reported figures. It wouldn't be surprised me if some of those were higher or a little bit lower. Right, thank you very much, you three. But of course, I mean, it looks like Norwich are underperforming in relation to where you are in the wages league, doesn't it? So we'll perhaps come back to this point at another point. Right, League One then is hotting up as teams vie for a place in the Championship next season. Obviously, Killian, you're hoping not to have to play any of these at all, and you'll be in the Prem, going to Arsenal and Liverpool away. But which of these teams would you like to have an away day to, should you be hanging around in the Championship a bit longer?
Yeah, I'm going to pick two because of just convenience for me travelling to them.
Okay.
And just a bit of excitement. So Birmingham and Stockport would be two that are easy for me to get to from Ireland. I think Birmingham looks like they're almost there, I would say, and I'd like to see Stockport get there. And then Wrexham, I think, is just a bit of a dream story. For some reason, I can't tell you why. When I was very young, I always liked to keep an eye on Wrexham scores, and this is long before it became famous. So a trip to North Wales mightn't be too bad for me.
Okay, Matty?
I kind of like the plucky underdog side of the Stockport journey. I've done. Do you know what? I've not done Wickham or Reading, so selfishly, in terms of away days, I'd like to go to Wickham. I know they were in the Championship a few years back. Might have been the COVID season, I can't remember. But I'd like to go to Wickham. It's not too far, living down in London now, so that's an easy one for me. And Reading likewise. Opposite of Killian, I'm afraid, where Wrexham's concerned. I don't like this buying success thing. I think they'd very much still be in the Championship, the National League, or certainly League Two. Had they not had all that money pumped in, so it doesn't get me quite as much, that one. I'd much prefer to see Stockport come up. I don't know the ins and outs of it as much, but felt they've maybe done it slightly more the proper way than Wrexham have.
Okay. Well said. Right. Brilliant. Thank you, you two. We'll be watching Norwich again this Friday night on TV. Spend my Friday nights with Norwich again.
Oh, another Friday night, please.
Yeah, team doesn't hold, Mark.
Yes, yeah. Right, to make it a little bit more interesting, please. This one, I didn't turn it off, but yeah, I was kind of had one eye on and something else. On the other, on my
We wouldn't have blamed you if you turned it off. To be fair.
Right, enjoy the game then this Tuesday and Friday night. We'll see you in 7 days' time to review it all.